All right, what's good? I'm Kyle. This is my boy Matt. Today we're going to get into the top 20 receivers. We're going to compare our rankings to the Fantasy Pro experts, and we're going to see how they differ and exactly why they differ. This is Living the Fantasy. Let's get into it. So, me, you, and Fantasy Pro experts, we all have DeAndre Hopkins, clear-cut number one all the way across the board. You want to talk to us about why?
He was top 5 in targets, receptions, target share percentage, everything pretty much. He gives the second highest fantasy points per route in the league. Only reason you might not get him is because there's more weapons on the field, which is what I've heard. But aside from that, I mean, he's pretty much clear-cut number one.
Yeah, so the thing is with him is with Fuller on the field, he actually did better in those games. So it's not too much of a concern. The main concern would
It's not
be
a negative,
like,
it's more positive, right?
yeah, the thing would be adding Kiki Cutie might take away some targets as well. They don't have to rely on him as much as they did, but I mean he's still going to be an absolute unit. So,
yeah. But like, and I'm high on Kiki Kuti as well. But like, I feel like if their quarterback just comes out and slings it, which I think he will, he's like the number one guy that I'm high on, Mr. Watson. I think that there's going to be enough balls to go around. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to kill it. So,
yeah, no, he's clear-cut number one. Getting into number two, Fantasy Pros has Davante Adams. You have Davante Adams. I differ a little bit, but why do you have Davante Adams above Julio?
Davante Adams, frankly, Aaron Rodgers. That's the main reason. He gets 100% snap share, which is insane. I mean, obviously, it's just like D-Hop. He only played 15 games last year, so there's an extra game in there where he could blow up. I think that he's going to stay healthy just like D-Hop. I don't know. He's fast. He's got crazy burst, 85th percentile burst. There's just tons of like opportunity for him to score. There's not a lot of receivers out there that I think are good. I don't think Randall Cobb leaving increases or decreases his share at all. I think he's just going to keep doing the same thing he's always been doing.
Yeah, so I had him last year. He's a beast. He's definitely going to get his share of the targets, and I think he's going to be just as good as last year pretty much. Only way he would do worse is if Aaron Rodgers gets injured, or if Marquez and Geronimo Allison take away some of his targets. That could slightly decrease him, but not. I don't think it's going to be much. I think he's going to be top 3 for sure. Him and Julio are definitely kind of interchangeable, in my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that too. That's why I have them in the same tier. I think that Julio's like he has all the intangibles. He's absolutely crazy in like every single stat. I mean, aside from touchdowns. But if we see him get any touchdowns this year at all, like he's gonna have a pretty good year.
Yeah.
It's interesting because everybody's throwing around the name Dirt Cutter. Like everybody thinks that dude's gonna like change the way that the Falcons offense is running and like all this stuff. I think he's gonna do the exact same thing he normally does. I think he's gonna add a few touchdowns, and I think his yards are gonna go down just a little bit. I don't think his points are gonna change much. I think he's gonna be top tier wide receiver. I mean, he had the most points last year in half point PPR, I believe. So,
Julio, he's just an amazing receiver. I think that the whole Atlanta Falcons offense, I think, should be better this year. I just think that this is like if they don't get it done this year, the next couple of years, they're never gonna get it done because Matt Ryan's getting older, Julio's getting older. Like this is their time. It's now or never.
Freeman.
So yeah, so I think it's just like that he's gonna be good. He's always good. He's always a safe pick. He's always like injured, but not really.
Yeah, his injury doesn't mean anything. So
the only downside would be Matt Ryan. Every year he kind of switches up in terms of fantasy. Like last year he was 2. The year before that he was like 15th overall. And then 2, and then 15, and then 7. So this, if you're going by like history, this could be Matt Ryan's off year, which would mean maybe it puts a little dent in the Julio's production, but not really. I mean, he's just going to be.
Yeah, that's just statistical improbability. I think it's, I don't know. Julio's he's an elite wide receiver. He's top tier, so
yeah. So
no
I think
worries
it's just
there.
Definitely Hopkins and then Julio Adams for sure. Like either or. If you get one of those 3 guys, you're definitely secured for your first position on receiver.
Who do you got 4th on your list there?
I got Odell Beckham. The reason I have Odell Beckham, which I wasn't super high on him, I used to have him a lot lower to be honest, but the reason I have him higher now is because I feel like his upside is just a lot greater than some of the other guys going around him. Him and JuJu kind of have similar upside, I think. Michael Thomas, I'm kind of worried about. Like I just don't think his upside's there anymore. I think they want to run the ball a lot. Definitely doesn't have as much upside, but he has a safer floor than Odell Beckham. So that's why I have Odell number 4 because I think his upside's just a lot higher.
I can agree with that because I think that Baker's a better quarterback than Eli Manning or like Daniel Jones or any of those guys. And I think that all these guys in the top 7 are going to put up elite numbers regardless of like what happened. I mean, unless there's like an injury or like something stupid. But like my fear with Odell is that he's on a new team, new system, a lot of weapons, whereas the Giants did not have like any weapons at wide receiver. He was the only one. Like even like I mean the only thing they really had was Evan Ingram, and then his last season was Saquon. But like they've got tons of wide receivers out there. They've got a huge running back core. The quarterback is what we can see elite, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, he's so far good, but he's still kind of unproven in a way. So
yeah. I mean, I haven't seen anything from him that's like this dude's crazy. He's obviously better than any Browns quarterback we've had in the past 20 years, but I don't know. It's just like it's tough for me to grab a guy like that, even though Odell individually is the total package. Like in that like in that string of I don't know. I can't get him before Joe Mixon, and so that's my biggest issue is this whole tier right here. I grabbed Joe Mixon before pretty much.
Well, I would still grab Joe Mixon probably above Odell. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I agree with everything you're saying, and he's definitely one of the most risky guys here. I think that if you want safer, definitely go JuJu or Michael Thomas, because I don't think their ceiling is too much lower than Odell's. I just think that Odell is such a talent that if he plays up to his potential and the quarterback play is really good, he has potential to just, definitely finish as the number 1 receiver. Like, I think his ceiling is number 1 receiver.
Yeah. So. I mean, you can kind of see, like, I went risk averse, I feel like, in the way that I ranked this. Like, I have Julio number 3, and then right after that, I've got JuJu Smith-Schuster. All right, so JuJu I love because he's just an absolute, like, he's an absolute unit. All right, this guy, he just... He should have 100% snap share this year, whereas last year he had 88%, and he was in the slot 56% of the time. He was 5th in receptions. He had limited separation, and then, he was pressured a lot from cornerbacks. They were, like, right up on him, like 2 yards off. I think that he's going to do some big things. Antonio Brown being gone, that gives him a lot more room to gain in the opportunity share because you don't have a crybaby and like begging for targets all the time, and so they're going to be spreading the ball around a little more, but Juju's probably going to get like 75% of the targets. Yeah. So I mean, aside from running back and all that, but so that's why I have him there. And then as you can see, like Michael Thomas 5th because he's staying where he's at, and then Odell switched teams, so that's why I have him just a little bit lower. And then Tyreek Hill, you never know because he's got the injury concern and he's got the off the field issues. You don't want your star wide receiver falling off the face of the earth mid-season. So that's kind of why I have those guys ranked in the way that they are, even though they're all absolute legends, and like I wouldn't mind having any of them on my team. There's just a lot of running backs there also that I would like. So
the way I view JuJu Smith-Schuster is I think he definitely has a huge ceiling, and he's definitely going to be safe. And the thing that everybody's talking about is Big Ben missing all the targets that Antonio Brown has. So Antonio Brown had like a crap ton of targets. So that's going to be definitely split up between JuJu and a couple other guys. Mm-hmm. But they're also talking about Ben Roethlisberger he threw at like a historical rate last year. Like he threw so many passes, so that's definitely going to come down. There's no way he throws as many passes this next year as he did the previous year. But however, a lot of those targets are going to go to JuJu, so JuJu's going to get the exact same amount of targets, if not more, than last year. So he's definitely going to be totally safe, and he has a ton of upside because he's going to be the number 1 guy. And he's still going to play a lot of the time in the slot. Like I think they've said that he's going to be a slot receiver for sure.
I mean, so I would see that as the case. Yeah, it makes sense. He was there 56% of the time last year, and I mean, he performed the best from the slot. So like, why change a good thing if you have another primary receiver you can throw out there? Which they kind of do, right, with James? Or no?
Yeah, well, I think Moncrief is actually winning the battle right now. Too. I think it's Moncrief on one, but they might just. I mean, they have all these different formations. I'm sure JuJu will be on the outside. He'll also be on the inside.
Yeah, they have a bunch of wide receivers. They're just less known guys, but like they're a pretty talented group. So I think Juju's going to get his fair share, being the absolute best out of them, obviously.
Yeah, so that's why I have him there. You have him pretty high as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that tier is so interchangeable. Like, it took me a solid amount of time to decide which order I wanted to throw those guys in. And I would argue for the Fantasy Pros list. I would argue for my own list. I can argue for either in different ways. It just depends on how you're trying to draft. And I feel like the way I set it up was based on just kind of risk. Their bare minimums is more where I set my...
Yeah, I just set mine up like where each player, like where I kind of like them. And also I think Michael Thomas, I'm not liking his upside this year, to be honest. I just don't think it's going to be that high. I think even like the second half of last year, he totally fell off. Like the first half, he was just averaging. He was going at an insane pace. 16-game pace was just insane, and then he totally fell off through the second half of the season. And I just think that they're going to be a run team. So I like while he's safe because he's going to get those same points and he's going to get the targeted. He's going to get he's going to be consistent. He's just not. I don't think he's going to have crazy breakout games very often. So that's why I put him where he's at. But again. Odell, Julio, Michael Thomas, and even Tyreek are kind of all interchangeable, like you said. It's just going to be based off of, honestly, maybe they're a second round draft pick for you, so maybe you want to go more risky, which is why you go Odell. And if you're wanting the guy in the first round, maybe you take somebody more safe, like maybe JuJu or Michael Thomas, because you find them more safe. So it's really just the positioning on your draft placement, I think, as well. But
so you've got Thomas 7th, that what you said?
6th.
You got him 6th. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can get behind it. I can get behind that. So I don't disagree. Like, I think that he's gonna put up a ton of yards, and then just get a ridiculous amount of catches because he's Drew Brees' favorite target. And what are you gonna do? Yeah. That's just. I mean, you don't get much more accurate than Brees, even with Brees aging. He's gonna get a ton of targets, and his stats should be very similar to last year, unless he gets some targets taken by some of those young up and comers. Because Mark Ingram leaving doesn't really change anything because Alvin Kamara was the receiving back anyway. So, I mean, he should get the same amount of targets regardless.
The only thing
they might
would
be in positions where they're behind late in games, though, more often where they have to throw. That's the only thing I could think of.
Well, and also I think they brought in Jared Cook. So maybe if Jared Cook and Drew Brees have a crazy connection, maybe you see that takes away a little bit of targets from him.
But that could benefit them too,
Yeah,
so
I don't think that's really an issue.
Yeah, because he can clear out the routes underneath, and then Michael Thomas can clear out the deep stuff, and then Alvin Kamara are really short.
That can also help extend drives too. So maybe they get more touchdowns because of it.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends. They have a dynamic offense. Drew Brees knows how to use what he gets, so
he definitely has a safe floor.
Yeah, exactly. I think all those guys have really safe floors. Tyreek Hill's the only one I'm worried about, and that's because injury / wanting to beat his son or whatever.
Yeah, so it's good. Tyreek Hill. We kind of have him at the bottom of those guys. Just same thing as Fantasy Pros actually. He's probably the most risky because for one, we all know how good Patrick Mahomes did last year. Okay, there's no way he throws 50 touchdowns again. Like there's only 2 quarterbacks that did that before him, and that was Tom Brady and Peyton. So the odds of him getting back-to-back 50s is just insane. Even 40 would be kind of a stretch. I think 40 is pretty much a rare number for a lot of quarterbacks as well. I don't think too many quarterbacks have even hit 40.
It happens. It happens more than you think.
Coming off of 50 and then going to 40 might not even happen. So based on that, like Tyreek Hill might not even get as many touchdowns as he did last year, just off of pure regression from the whole offense. And that's risky in itself. He's also risky because of off-the-field issues. He's been cleared, and the Chiefs have even talked about extending him, so he's not really too risky anymore. The one thing I would say is like he did get kind of hurt already, and I think that's because I think players might be even mad at him, and they might kind of take out what he did on the field. Like they might not care about his well-being. Like there's good sportsmanship out there. Players aren't trying to kill each other, but in his case, there might be some players trying to kill him. So.
Yeah, I mean, I linked on my Twitter or whatever, or on our Twitter today, was the
Bashaud Breeland
big story that Bashaud Breeland posted about like his daughter and like his his family and like the growth of. I mean, it's all basically dedicated to his daughter, but the whole thing's about family values pretty much. And when you hear Tyreek Hill talking like that in the voice memo, like that's just like it's not appealing. And a lot of the guys in the league, I don't think are gonna like that, especially defensively. And they're probably gonna try to kill him even more than they tried to kill him before. I don't know if any of that stuff's related. Like I think it's quite the stretch to say, oh well,
this is all
Bashaud Breeland loves family, so he's gonna hit Tyreek Hill harder. No, I mean that was just a fluke play, but still, anyway, like it got me thinking like maybe these guys will come after him harder. Like maybe they will jam him off the line just to try to hit Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, it's just all crazy speculation, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, and then the same thing. Like you were talking about Patrick Mahomes getting like under 40 touchdowns. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to get like 40 or 44, 45. I think that's like where I'm placing him right now. But I mean, it's possible.
I would say 35. We kind of already saw him regress last year. I think like towards the end of the year, he wasn't getting as many as he did. Defense has kind of figured him out a little bit. Like if you're just that good, you can't stop a guy. It's not like you can figure him out.
That's what it is. I think that's what it is, though. I think he is that good.
Well, I mean, 35 touchdowns is still good. I'm not, 37 somewhere in there. I think Hill regresses either way. I just don't think he gets as many points. I think he's still going to...
I think he regresses. He doesn't get 50. I don't think he breaks 50 this year, but he's going to be in the 40s for sure.
Hill's definitely going to be a beast, especially if he plays the whole time. He's going to be good, but he's got a little bit more risk compared to the three guys ahead of him. So that's why I like the guys ahead of him a little bit more.
We can't agree on that for sure.
And I mean, we're not saying he's trash by any means. I mean, he's my 7th overall right now, so that's pretty high. So
what was the number I gave you earlier on his actual like pro day 40?
I think it was like 4.27 speed or something.
4.29. I think it was a 4.29.
It's 4.29. I don't know. I mean, we all know he's crazy fast, but he's just athletically gifted, man.
We all know, but I never heard the number until now. Like until I was doing research, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. That dude's an absolute unit. A 5'10", 185 unit.
Antonio Brown starts off my tier 3. That's just because he's just a solid player. Like, he's just good across the board. He's obviously been like the number 1 receiver over the past couple years in fantasy. Going to the Raiders, that's the only knock he kind of has now, is that he's playing with the Raiders. It's all unknown. You know, how good is Derek Carr? But
that might be a big boy knock, though. Like, that's kind of a big deal.
That's kind of a big deal. Well, that's why he's not going number 1 anymore, you know. But he still could do definitely really good. He's not going to do as good as he once did with Big Ben. I don't think there's any way he can possibly get to the number 1 receiving, or he'll be the number 1 receiver this year. I don't think that's happening. But
I think there's only a few quarterbacks in the league that can make him number 1 again.
Yeah, but I think he could still finish top 5, definitely top 10. I think the second year in the offense with Derek Carr, I think he's going to learn a lot. He's going to be more comfortable, and I think with the amount of work and how hard Antonio Brown works, like, they'll be okay. And I think Antonio Brown's definitely going to be good.
I think Antonio Brown's a lock for like top 10 wide receivers, but I don't think he's going to have I don't think his year is going to be in the top 5. I really don't. Yeah. I think that Derek Carr couldn't make any wide receiver in the league look good. I think Derek Carr has disgusting statistics, just disgusting.
Well, that's why there's a tier break for me right there, and even for you, because that's just the tier break. Like, it's Tyreek Hill going from elite, and then you have an elite receiver in Brown, but like, is the stats going to be elite? You know, we don't know.
Yeah, no. Skill wise, yes, Antonio Brown's elite. I think he would be in the top tier if he wasn't playing for the team that he's playing for.
Yeah, so that's why he's in my tier 3.
But Derek Carr statistically, he had Amari Cooper on his team, right? And Dak Prescott made Amari Cooper look good. And I don't think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. So by the connection there, if he can't make Amari Cooper look good, I don't think he can make Antonio Brown look good. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, if Amari Cooper can make Dak look good, but he can't make Derek Carr look good, that means that Derek Carr is probably not very good.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think first year offense with, you know, the new head coach, and I just don't think, I don't know, Cooper just didn't. I don't think Cooper even wanted to be a Raider, to be honest. I think Antonio is definitely better. So if Cooper can't make Derek Carr look better, then maybe Antonio Brown can, because he's better than Cooper.
But even the coach, I've heard him say more good things this offseason about Nathan Peterman than I have about Derek Carr.
Yeah, well, I just think that if Antonio Brown's so good, as good as he is, he definitely should be up there on the list. And where he's going is definitely a fair spot.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. I don't mind the spot at all. I think 8's fine. I have him at 9 under Mike Evans, just because I think Mike Evans is a hugely skilled wide receiver, and huge, emphasis on huge. So he's 6'5", 230, 35-inch arms. Dude's pretty long, pretty tall. And he actually has the same issue, is that he has Jameis Winston as quarterback. I think Jameis Winston and Derek Carr are just as bad as each other. I think they're both horrible. A lot of people are really high on Jameis Winston this year just because all the elite wide receivers that he has are I
think Bruce Arians too.
Elite. Yeah,
I think Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
Well, they actually lost some receivers this year too, but Chris Godwin's
but they have Chris Godwin. Everybody's high on Chris Godwin.
They have 2 good tight ends. I mean, I'm not saying their receiving core is still definitely top. You know, it's definitely
they
up there.
Lost Djax, but Jameis Winston can't throw that far anyway. So,
and that's why I have Mike Evans below Antonio Brown, just because I just hate Jameis Winston that much. Like, in terms of fantasy, he's so inconsistent. He'll make Mike Evans have good games, but then he's also going to have terrible games because of Jameis Winston. And that's just what happens. He's either going to get 15 points or he'll get 5, and you're just going to be either excited or disappointed. and I've rode that wave with Mike Evans before, and I don't want to ride it again. And that's why I was even considering drafting Ty above Mike Evans, and I actually did in one of my leagues because I would rather go with an offense that I know is going to be good, and I trust Luck, and I kind of want to be more excited about having Ty than Mike Evans. Because if I'm watching, if I'm watching the sports live, seeing T.Y. Hilton go down the field and make a huge catch, like that's just super exciting to me. And obviously Mike Evans can do the same thing, but I think it's going to happen more with the Colts. There might be more consistency there. I think Ty is also kind of an inconsistent player, but I think he's definitely more consistent than Mike Evans. He just doesn't have the touchdown upside that Mike Evans has, which is the huge problem. And that's exactly why I put Mike Evans above him, because of the touchdown upside.
Well, as a player, I like Antonio Brown, then I like Mike Evans, then I like Ty. So that's just me. I think Antonio Brown's obviously the best. I think Mike Evans is a very skilled wide receiver. I think Ty, like maybe a few years ago, I would have been like, oh yeah, Ty, legit. But like now he's in the same tier as like Fitzgerald for me, where like I don't want to draft him because I'm like, maybe this is the year he regresses, and I just keep thinking that in my head over and over again. Ty, I think he's going to be elite. I'm not worried about that. I'm just like, it's in the back of my head, I guess.
Well, I agree with you, and he kind of gets bagged up sometimes. I'm not saying he's better than Mike Evans' skill. I like Mike Evans just a better receiver. I just don't like Winston, and like it's just quarterback. It's all about the quarterback.
Yeah, and Andrew Luck, no mistake about it. Andrew Luck.
They just have a special connection.
Yeah, Andrew Luck, best quarterback in that class. So
yeah.
Well, maybe Russell Wilson. I don't know. Toss up.
So
yeah, that's why I have Mike Evans, then Antonio Brown.
So then Fantasy Pros rounded off their tier 2 with Keenan Allen. I put Keenan Allen right after T.Y. Hilton as well. You didn't put him there. You put him below Cooper.
I put him 12th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Amari Cooper better.
I think Keenan Allen, he's definitely up there. He's borderline elite. I would say he's elite, but it's like, it's not elite like Julio. It's elite like he's just like really fucking solid, and that's why I put him below Hilton, because he's a really good player, and we've seen it. He's got a good quarterback, good offense. He's just one problem with him is injuries. He was healthy last year, and he's proved he can be healthy, so injuries aren't too big of a concern anymore. But I mean, in the past it was, so you never know. It could come back. I'm not really concerned about that. It's more just the Chargers offense. I feel like it kind of features somebody every week differently. So like one week it'll be Keenan Allen will do good, and then the next week maybe Mike Williams gets a touchdown, and then their tight end might get a touchdown or something like that. And then Keenan doesn't get that many points. I think he's kind of inconsistent, like where you get 6 points, and then you have like some breakout weeks, and then you go back to 6. And I'm not a huge fan of that. So
Well, I think he's definitely going to go up this year though, because he's got Melvin Gordon holding out. I don't know. I think that his success goes up this year, but in my head, he's still got injury concern, even though he doesn't. And I'm always going to grab Marlon Mack or Damian Williams above him just because I like them better.
I agree. I think he goes up this year too.
Marlon Mack might be a reach, but
well, Tyrell Williams isn't there, so I think that their receiving core is pretty much Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, so that should help him. And I think he should just definitely go up. It's just he just feels risky still, and I still kind of, part of me wants to say he's better than Ty and like draft him above Ty, but then like part of me can't do it.
I think skill wise they're very even. Like I think
they're kind of similar.
Yeah, they're very similar. Like I feel like Keenan's just super fast and he's like a slot guy, and Ty, I don't know.
They're kind of, I think these guys are kind of interchangeable. You can't even put them above Mike Evans if you want, but I think most people would say Mike Evans is better.
Yeah.
But I think they're all kind of interchangeable in a way.
Ty, Keenan, and Amari are all. I put Amari in that group. You didn't do that. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but Ty, Keenan, and Amari are all interchangeable for me, which you would heavily disagree, I think. But like Amari Cooper, man, he's just like, I've been bitten by the Amari Cooper bug every single year, and every single year he disappoints me. And then last year at the end of the year, I happened to be at the game where he played against the Redskins, where he scored 2 touchdowns and had 180 yards. That game hurt my soul, but watching him on the field was pretty incredible. The dude absolutely killed it. And this is his first year with a new quarterback in a new scheme with new, I don't know, he seems excited about where he is. He seems excited about his future, and he put up big points at the end of the year in a few of those games.
Yeah, and just the problem with him is being consistent. He's always been an inconsistent player. He definitely showed more consistency with the Cowboys than he did on the Raiders, or at least when he blew up, he would blow up a lot more. So if you're going to be inconsistent, I guess when you hit, getting 40 points would be nice. Like if he hits it's like you automatically won that league, that week. But when he doesn't hit, then you kind of like you're struggling. And that's the problem I had with
you're
him.
gonna need somebody to make up the points for sure, and that's why it's so hard to do that with like a second round pick. Is that where he's being drafted?
Yeah, he's going pretty high too. Yeah, and that's why I don't like where he's going because there's generally some good running backs still there, and then there's also Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs below him.
So right now he's going. It says the 3-9 is where he's going. So there's not like crazy good running backs available. It's like Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. It's going to be those high risk guys. Well, I think that's the reason why I like him. But he goes pretty high in a lot of drafts that I've noticed lately.
I think it depends on the draft too. Because I think doing Yahoo, he's still. I mean, he goes pretty early. I think in Yahoo,
second round, yeah.
Like there's some elite like running backs still there when he's there. I think sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen him go really, really high. I think if you can get him late, I think he's a good steal because his upside is like wide receiver. You know, like he could be wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6 if he has those big games like the 3 touchdown game against the Eagles or the 2 touchdown game against the Redskins, where he absolutely dominated our teams at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just depends on which Amari Cooper you get, and that's the fear that a lot of people have. But I think he had big games than most of the big wide receivers did.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Cooper is if he falls in the draft, and let's say like people start drafting Thielen and Diggs above him, then I think he's definitely a good pick. And even if you go safer with your picks, like let's say you draft like 2 or maybe even 3 players, like pretty safe guys, like maybe you got Michael Thomas and you got some safer guys, then maybe it might be a wise move to get Cooper because that way if he doesn't blow up, like it doesn't hurt you because you already have some like points.
Yeah, you've got support.
But if he does, it's not a win. So it might be safer.
It's kind of a risky pick with your first 3 rounds, but I think that if you have a bunch of leagues, it's worth taking the risk. If you don't, then I would probably go a little bit safer. I'd grab somebody who's more consistent and then just pray that your consistency beats out all the opponents, which happens like regularly. So, I mean, it's kind of up to you in that draft spot right there. We got those 5 guys, and some of them are more consistent than others. So,
yeah, Amari Cooper, I think he's just a love-hate relationship for sure.
Yeah, that's why I have him in the middle of that tier because that tier is just a mix of like all these different like question marks, and I don't know. I'm excited to see most of those guys play, but
that's why I put him at a whole different tier. Adam Thielen comes shortly after on pretty much every list.
You do have him in a different tier, huh? You have him in the bottom, the next one.
Yeah. So
what number is he as your receiver? Like
he's receiver 14.
14. Okay. So yeah, you got him a little bit below me. Who do you have next?
I have Thielen next.
Number 13.
It's really hard for me because I think Thielen and Diggs are so close to each other this year. I had Thielen last year and I loved him for like most of the season, and then at the end he kind of started to fall off, and I was like, do I even play him anymore? Like, or do I put Alshon Jeffery above him now? Like, there was concerns towards the end of the season for sure. So that's why I'm kind of like, do I want him or Diggs? And also like the offense where they're going. They want to run the ball a lot more this year, I think. And I think if they run the ball a lot more and they're not throwing as much as they did last year, then that could be bad for Thielen because I think Diggs, he doesn't need volume. I think Diggs, it's pretty much like if you get 5 catches a game and you blow up, you blow up. I think that's kind of Diggs. And Thielen, he's more volume based. Like I think he's a really talented receiver, and he doesn't necessarily need the volume, but I think typically he's generally more volume, which is why it kind of scares me because I think that Diggs could potentially have a bigger year this year. But then again, I go back and look at Thielen, and he just plays like such a good player. His route running is insane.
Yeah, and I mean they're both crazy good wide receivers, but they have Kirk Cousins at quarterback, which really hurts their value. And that's like 95% of the time I'm not drafting a Minnesota wide receiver because even though I think Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs have the ability to both be number ones, they're not going to be because of Kirk Cousins and because of the scheme and all that stuff. And like Dalvin Cook, he's back this year. We'll see if he sticks around, if he gets injured again or any of that stuff. But Dalvin Cook is going to be taking a little bit of the work. He's going to be taking percentage because their running backs last year were not good enough to maintain a healthy percentage of carries and yards and all that stuff. So Thielen and Stefon Diggs kind of had their share. They had as much as they could possibly probably get with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. If Kirk Cousins wasn't the quarterback, then their value would shoot through the roof. But I don't think that's going to change for the next 3 years because Kirk is a guy who does just enough to keep his starting job, and that's it.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. I think that Thielen is probably has more chance to finish above Diggs this year, but I have a feeling that Diggs might go above him. Like, I think he might finish above him. So maybe it's a smart idea to kind of mix it up. If you fall around that spot in the draft multiple times, and if you're doing multiple drafts, it might be wise to take them, maybe more Thielen shares than Diggs, but you might want to grab Diggs a couple of times.
Thielen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And I don't draft either really though. That's just me personally.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of these receivers kind of have the same problem as their quarterbacks totally hamper them. Like Mike Evans, Thielen, Stefon.
So. A little bit of Amari Cooper, but like
Amari
a lot of
Cooper,
people like Dak. I kind of like Dak this year, but
Dak's not a bad quarterback. I think he's like a game manager, so he's definitely good enough to get a job done.
Yeah, he's multifaceted. He can run the ball as well, which is what makes him worth it because he's somewhat accurate, even though he short arms it a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too we didn't mention is they have a new offensive coordinator, so we'll see how that impacts play calling.
Yeah, I have no idea about that guy, so I'm not even sure to be.
Well, they wouldn't take any risks throwing the ball like deep down the field or anything. Like I don't even think that was Dak's fault. I think that was just the play calling.
The coaching, yeah, so it's been like that for the past like 4 or 5 years.
They just called retarded plays. So I think if they open it up a little bit more, like of course they're going to be run first. They will do that if they have Zeke, but yeah, but still they might open it up a little bit more with a better play caller, and if that happens, that could be even better for Cooper. But I think I just feel better taking Thielen and Diggs because I think it's just safer.
Yeah, I like him better. That's just me.
Yeah. They got Julian Edelman next. I have him a little farther down. You as well.
I don't even know if I have him at 16. He's a do not draft for me also. So I'm taking Marlon Mack above these guys. Everybody on this list pretty much except for Golladay. So
yeah, he's just going really high like this year. And he's kind of has a history of kind of getting injured. A lot of people don't like that. I don't mind his injury history. I don't think it's that bad. I don't know. I think it's kind of
annoying.
Yeah, he's definitely solid.
How do you grab a guy in like the 4th round and like not know if he's going to start week to week? That just hurts me inside. Like he's going to put up points if he is in the game because he's just a PPR stud. I don't know.
It's hard for me to play him above Brandin Cooks.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that, like.
And his upside could be a lot better than it was last year because without Gronk, I mean, he's going to be peppered with targets. He could have, I think after Gronk left, I think Gronk was out a couple years ago, and his stats when Gronk was out was just ridiculous. Like, I think he was getting 17 points a game easy. So he definitely has that kind of upside this year. Don't get me wrong.
But Gronk said there's a 40% chance or 45% chance he comes back. Plus, N'Keal Harry is still there.
Yeah, I still think Edelman's going to be.
They added a ton of running backs.
I think he's good. I just don't like him above, I don't like him above Brandin Cooks. I think Brandin Cooks should go above him. Even Robert Woods, and frankly, Robert Woods can't even go above Cooks. That's another one that's really close for me.
That's a toss up for me. So I don't really,
Like last year, Cooks did better.
Team,
so.
They both get a ton. Like to put into perspective, my sister. I mean, this sounds sad. My sister had Jared Goff, Brandin Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp last year, and she started all of them against me. And won because they all had over 20 points.
Yeah.
So there's not an issue with grabbing any of them. There's enough targets to go around. Let's say they all do that every single week, which I mean isn't possible, but it's going to happen where one of them has a big week, one of them doesn't have a big week, whatever. I mean you're gonna see that. So
I think Robert Woods is safer. Like he has a higher floor, but his ceiling is lower. Brandin Cooks, he might have a lower.
His skill set. He has a skill set advantage, I think.
He has a lower floor but a higher ceiling. He's definitely a different type of player than Woods. So he's going to be a little bit more inconsistent than Woods, I think, but I think he's still going to be decently consistent. Like he's going to be okay. He's going to have points each week.
He played with Drew Brees too, right?
Yeah, Brandin Cooks.
I feel like that benefited him a lot in his career.
Well, he played with Tom Brady that one year too. So he's played with the best quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that benefited him a ton. I think he's a solid wide receiver. That's why he's one of the only guys in this list, like in this tier that I'll draft. I'll grab Brandin Cooks late. I'll grab Robert Woods. I'll grab Kenny Golladay. Those are just guys that are like, I feel like I can trust.
Yeah, I feel it. So they have Julian Edelman, then they have Cooks, they have Woods, and then they have Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay, I like Kenny Golladay. I think he's a good receiver. I think he's gonna have a better year. The whole Lions offense should have a better year because it's harder to do worse than they did last year. So, and I think Stafford, he had his worst year ever as a quarterback. So it's really hard to do worse than they did last year. So I think he could do better for sure this year than he did last year, especially because he has another year under his belt. But it's just hard to draft a Lions player and be excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think his upside's pretty high though. There's not a lot of people that can really threaten his targets on that team. So.
Yeah.
Aside from the new tight end or whatever, but
pretty much everybody. Like when I drafted him, and I was like, okay, I got a solid receiver. I know he's gonna be solid. He's gonna be good for me. But am I excited about it? No, I'm not excited about it. It's just it's a good pick. But
it's solid.
that's
It's
just what it
it's
is.
A safe.
It's a safe pick.
It's a safe-ish pick.
He's a guy who's going to have 1,000 yards, probably have 5 touchdowns again. He could have 7. He could have 1,200 yards because their offense should improve. He definitely could be up there. If he gets 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns, that would be really, really solid for drafting him where he's going.
So he's a guy that I will draft if like I get sniped and somebody goes, "Oh, I'm gonna grab Chris Carson right before you," and I'm like, "Oh, rats! My running back heavy strat did not work," and I don't want to get anybody else like after that pretty much for a long time. So Kenny Golladay is a guy that's like right there where I can just like sneak in and take him because I feel like it's the safest pick of the bunch.
And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened to me. I was going to take Carson. He went right before me, so then I had to take Golladay.
That's like the most standard play. It's like, I mean, you're like, okay, well, I needed that running back, or like I wanted that running back to like triple up or something, and then you're like, okay, I can't do it, so let me grab Golladay.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't feel great about it, but you're like, okay, well, at least I got him.
You can't go wrong with drafting Golladay. And honestly, he could be kind of like the tier break as well. Like he could be the end of, I put Jeffrey and Boyd in there, but he could be the next, like, he could be the end of the next tier. Like tier 5 can definitely start after him. He's a totally safe player, good player too.
Yeah.
And Fantasy Pros, they put AJ Green in there before their tier break. I will not touch AJ Green with a 10-foot pole.
I mean, I've already touched him in a few leagues, so not physically, just league wise.
And you dropped him too. It was a touch and go.
I dropped him like an idiot, and then I tried to re-grab him because I thought when it said 6 to 8 week injury that it was 6 to 8 weeks into the season, not 6 to 8 whatever. And so now I'm really frustrated because I dropped him, and now I got to try to grab him on waivers. And
he had surgery on his ankle, so he could come back a little sooner than he initially was, I think, which was good news. I think he's only supposed to miss like 1 to 3 weeks in the season maybe, but even then it's like how good is that gonna? How is he gonna do afterwards? How's that gonna impact his performance on the field? He should be fine, but I just think his injury risk is so high already. I didn't like him in general before that injury because of his turf toe. Every time I draft him, he gets turf toe every time. So I just can't draft him, and now he's got that as well. So he's definitely not. I will not touch him.
Foot injury.
Yeah.
He's got a permanent foot injury. The dude's just not making it work, and so, I mean, where he's being drafted.
If he gets drafted after Kenny Golladay, it's not bad. It's not bad. I won't hate it. I'm just not going to be the guy that does it.
Yeah, exactly. I have him in a bunch of leagues already because I was like, you know what, this is the year AJ Green blows up. And AJ Green gets injured like before the season starts, and now I feel like an idiot because I'm the one that's left with him as my like third wide receiver, not my third wide receiver, my third player overall. So that was kind of a painful decision, I guess. I jumped the gun and tried to grab Adrian Peterson too quick from free agency, and then like now I'm regretting it, even though I would still take AP.
Just be careful with AJ Green. If you take him, make sure you're getting him for a good value. After Golladay, it's not bad, but I personally would still wait even more because I think after Golladay, I could be wrong, but I think that's kind of when some good quarterbacks are being taken. Like I think you can get Carson Wentz, Cam Newton around that time, if not a little later. So
I think AJ Green's a good wide receiver stack option. So like if you already grab 2 wide receivers and then you're in the 3rd or 4th round and you go, you know what, I think I'm going to stack wide receiver. I have 2 safe picks already. Let me grab AJ Green as my flex play because now he's a flex. That would be premium because then you can put up some key points each week, and then you can go and grab Latavius Murray, Rashad Penny, those guys in the later rounds, Royce Freeman, and just try to capitalize on some question marks because I think that's like the only way that AJ Green can be played at this point because it's too risky to have him as one of your primaries.
And that's a good thing too is not that he's injured, but if that's the only bright side of being injured is that if you have an IR spot, you can throw him on the IR spot generally, and then you can pick somebody else up. So before the season starts, you'll have an advantage in the fact that like you'll have an extra player on your team that you can drop later on. Say something crazy happens, and I don't know.
I'm not sure though how like Yahoo leagues are working right now though because even now it's set that he's not on IR. I don't think it sets people to IR or whatever until the season starts.
Well, he's not. Injured. I don't think he's going to be on injured reserve. I think he's just going to be out, and they're not going to change his status from being out until a little later on. I think on Yahoo, but before the season starts, they'll definitely change it to out. So right before the season, you can probably pick somebody up, throw him on the IR,
put him on IR,
and then if that player you picks up blows up, then like that's dope.
Well, and odds are I'm gonna have another injury throughout preseason because I mean that's a long time. September 1st is the first game, or September 5th is the first game or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean we have plenty of time before then. So there's gonna probably be another injury by then. But
I have Alshon Jeffery next, just because I love Alshon Jeffrey as a player.
Fantasy Pros have Godwin?
Fantasy pros, they have Godwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you have at 19?
That's Jeffrey.
You have Alshon Jeffery. Okay.
Yeah, just because I think Jeffrey, he definitely can get it. He can get a touchdown every game because he's just a touchdown beast. He's just going to always get touchdowns. I think he's going to be better this year. He wasn't consistent last year. Like he had a couple games where he just got like 4 points, and it was not good. But he had some good games as well. And I think this year he can definitely bounce back and be more consistent. And I think where he's going is perfect for him with kind of the risk he has, which is just not being consistent. And I would love to take a shot on him right here.
You have him as your 19th wide receiver, or he just like, is this more of an honorable mention thing?
No, this is 19th overall.
Okay, so you have him above like Jarvis and Calvin Ridley and Cooper Kupp and all those guys?
Yep.
Okay, ballsy. I respect it.
In terms of value, like that's, because...
Well, in terms of value, yeah, but I'm talking like if you had to grab him...
I would still do it, but that's why I don't draft Jarvis and all those players, because I can still get players I like better later on.
Yeah, so you're skipping all those guys pretty much and going straight into it. Okay.
Well, if I do like a player, like let's say I like Lockett and Kupp, which I do, they barely didn't make my top 20 list. I think with Boyd, Lockett, and Kupp, it's all interchangeable. Like they're all like the next three guys for me. You can draft them wherever you see fit, and I might draft those guys ahead of Jeffrey if I can still get Jeffrey on the wraparound. So it's all based on the draft, but in terms of just like the play, like where I see the end of the year kind of playing out, or like this is kind of like I like Jeffrey. Maybe I'm a homer, but I just think he's going really late. I think he's going too late.
He probably is going late, to be honest. Like the 7th or the 6th round or whatever, like mid 6th is kind of low for him. Like
he used to be a little higher.
People got DJ Moore going like way above him.
Yeah, DJ Moore's going above him, and I don't like. That's a huge risk for me. I hate DJ. Like he's going way too high. He's a super risky player.
He hasn't proven shit.
He hasn't proven anything.
Nothing.
Maybe they're saying towards the end of the year he started showing something, but they're taking a shot at him just because he's going to be a number one receiver, and I don't think you can take a number one receiver just because he's in the number one receiver's role. Because you got to take a player based off of skill in that offense. Like we haven't seen anything. DJ Moore, if I see what I need to see out of him next season, I'll for sure draft him the season after. But I'm not touching DJ Moore until I see something out of him. And if that kills me, that kills me. But I'm just not going to do it.
I don't think it'll kill you though. Is the thing. I think avoiding him, regardless of how he does, is not going to kill you. So
yeah, exactly. So I would avoid him at all costs where he's going.
Because there's no way he's a top 10 wide receiver this year. I will bet my firstborn on it. Right now.
And Curtis Samuel's
if anybody goes back and watches this and he ends as top 10 receiver, you can have my firstborn immediately. All right, that's just how it is.
You can name him and everything.
Name him and everything. I don't even care. He's yours. This is a ploy for me to get out of my firstborn. I'm just kidding.
Free pass.
Exactly.
Curtis Samuel's going so farther, like he's going so much later, and it's like Curtis Samuel did really good last year too. So even if DJ Moore is the number one, Curtis Samuel could still do better than the number one. So
I think he will. That's the funny part.
Yeah. So it's like if you're taking a shot at one of those receivers, why drop the guy that's going super high? Go with the guy super late.
Yep. Always. If there's two guys that you think have an even chance of being the beast, then go with the second guy every time.
Yeah. So DJ Moore is just a total no-go. I got Boyd after Alshon just because I think AJ Green's injury for sure is going to help Boyd do better. But even if AJ Green's there, we saw over a couple games last year that Boyd still did good. Boyd, I think he's reliable. I think he's kind of safe. I think he's a lot safer than the guys going around him. Upside-wise, I think he has some good upside. He might not have as much upside as Chris Godwin, Lockett, or Kupp. So in terms of upside, he might be a little below them. But I think in terms of floor, he's above them, and he's definitely a safer pick for me right here. And this is kind of where, like, if I don't have a good receiving core right now, like maybe I only have one receiver, that's when I feel comfortable drafting Boyd because I know, hey, at least I'm getting a good receiver, a guy that I can rely on and be a good number 2 receiver. If I already have some receivers, then maybe I might like to go risky and get like Lockett or Godwin. So yeah, that's how I see Boyd.
And my issue with those 5th round wide receivers, a lot of times, is that's generally where I'll grab my like OJ Howard or like Deshaun Watson or something like that. And like Deshaun Watson is my favorite quarterback this year. OJ Howard is my favorite value tight end value because it's 5th round. But he's been going a little bit later lately too. He's been going like 6 something round. So those are generally where I'll grab those guys, and so that's why I kind of avoid those mid-round, wide receivers. I'll go for like later and go Marvin Jones or MVS or something like that. I like a lot of these guys. I like these guys you're talking about. Like Tyler Boyd, I love. I think that he's going to put up some big points this year, especially with AJ Green's injury concern, all that stuff. But it's hard to do that when there's other players on the board at other positions that I think could be clear-cut number ones.
Yeah, I feel that, and I do the same thing. I like to target OJ Howard and Evan Ingram. I think those are the two tight ends that have the best shot at being up there in the top 3
and
this
Evans
year.
in that same round too.
I think if you take Ertz and Kittle, you're kind of handicapping yourself. You want to find the third best tight end that's not drafted in top 3. You know, like, and that was Ertz for me last year. That's why I did so good. Is because I got him in the 6th round. He fell in the 6th round, and if you're getting a tight end in the 6th round who's going to like have top 3 upside, then you can definitely win, and he gives you a huge advantage. And that's why OJ Howard and Ingram are drafts for me. And also, I like to target Wentz and Cam Newton because they're going so late when they can definitely be top 5. And those are the kind of like the guys I like to target in that area. And so that's why I might skip on some of these guys as well, like you're kind of saying, because I might draft OJ and then I might draft Cam, you know, and so maybe I'm not getting a shot at these guys because I'm drafting the other players I have above them instead.
Well, yeah. Would you rather have Antonio Brown and OJ Howard, or Tyler Boyd and Travis Kelce?
Antonio Brown, for sure.
Antonio Brown and OJ, right?
Yeah, OJ and Brown.
That's just me, and that's how that plays out. If you switch it up, like the other way, you get Kelce, and then you have to go stick with like a Tyler Boyd type for that replacement.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what you're getting in exchange, and I don't think the difference between OJ Howard and I think Travis Kelce's an elite tight end. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that like the difference statistically is going to be that big compared to, you know, what we're like looking at.
Yeah.
That being said, obviously OJ Howard has injury risk because, you know, historically he has. But even if he gets injured, you can go grab Cameron Brate.
I think that Kelsey's the only one you can kind of justify taking that high, but that's only if he falls to you. But we'll definitely get into that more in the tight end segment.
Oh yeah, because you were talking about Ertz and Kittle, huh?
Yeah, so that was.
So on my list, I have Lockett and Cooper Kupp. I've just been hearing a lot of good stuff about Lockett, like in camp and all that, and then I've been hearing really bad things about DK Metcalf. And I was super high on DK Metcalf, but like everybody I've been talking to is like, no, in camp he hasn't been doing too hot, and he's, you know, struggling with playbook stuff, and he's doing, you know, all this random information that like you don't really hear every day, and like you just see his body and like how fast he is and all that stuff, and you're like, DK's a king. I've been hearing like negative information about DK, and like Lockett's been hyped up like crazy in camp, and then just his skill set is just unique, and I'm really high on Russell Wilson myself. I think that Russell Wilson's going to have one of his best years this year. Russell Wilson can't have his best year without wide receivers, and Lockett's his guy. So I don't know. That's why I'm high on him. Cooper Kupp, same reason I'm high on Brandin Cooks and Robert Woods. Is just, you know, he's part of that offense. That offense is explosive. They have one of the best receiving corps in the league. Like just, you know, consistent and like hardworking. I wouldn't say like they're like the craziest skill set or whatever, but like they all are very similar, and they all put up the same amount of points, and the quarterback can get used to them. Jared Goff's not an elite quarterback in my opinion, but he still does that with those 3 guys. I don't know. That's why I have Cooper Kupp there. The guys that you had were Alshon and
Boyd.
Who else? And Boyd.
Yeah.
I think that they're interchangeable. I really do. Alshon, I think that's a little bit of a homer pick, but I see why you did it.
It's just because I think he's going too late, and it's also going to matter based off of what you drafted already, what you're kind of looking for at this point in the draft.
Exactly. So I think if you're going to draft Alshon in the 6th, that's perfectly fine. But I would never look obviously to draft Alshon like at the 19 like wide receiver like skill wise. But like I don't have an issue with your assessment there. You know.
Yeah. I love Tyler Lockett. He was one of my guys this year. I think that last year he did really good. He got I think he had 10 touchdowns, and he seemed to always just have a knack for the end zone, and Russell Wilson didn't have that many targets, and he still doesn't have that many receiving targets. So I think Tyler Lockett is like the number 1 receiver basically. And if you're the number 1 receiver for Russell Wilson, you know, you're good to go. I don't think Wilson's going to have a crazy good year this year like you, but I still think Tyler Lockett can be a stud, and I love him. But where he's going, he's just he's slightly risky. I don't know if I like where he's going 100%, but I definitely have no problem taking him. And like you said, they're all kind of interchangeable. And Cooper Kupp, I think Cooper Kupp's going to be good, but I think I like Lockett a little better. I think Kupp, he's also coming off of an injury, so he could be slow to start the year.
I have Lockett above Kupp for sure.
Yeah, Kupp might be slow to start the year because of the injury, and he's also a third string receiver.
Purely because of the injury. Yeah, it's purely because of the injury that I have him there. Plus, he's a third receiver. I mean, you can put that in quotes because I think they all had like very, very similar targets.
Yeah, well, he definitely targeted them all, but I mean, being a receiver for Jared Goff or being the number 1 guy for Russell Wilson, I mean,
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's definitely a difference. I think
they throw a lot though for the Rams.
Yeah,
Especially,
that's the thing
I think
too.
with Gurley out this year, but having Gurley out might make it more difficult for them.
it's just that Lockett is he's a home run threat. So all it takes is one play. One play, Tyler Lockett can give you 75 yards and a touchdown.
A touchdown, yeah.
So-
And that's literally all you need for the week.
And that's all you need for the week. So it's like you just need that one play. And even if you don't get that one play, if you're targeted, 7 times for muscle, you definitely have a solid week. So he's
Yeah, Lockett's a poor man's Amari Cooper.
kind of, yeah,
With a better quarterback and
with a better floor. He's safer.
well, yeah.
He doesn't have a better floor because of stats.
I think
but-
Amari Cooper is safer. That's just me, though. Whatever.
So let's get into our honorable mentions. I kind of put Calvin Ridley there just because I'm not saying I would draft him after Boyd. I'm just saying that he's somebody I want to talk about because I don't think he should be going where he's going. He has a lot of upside. Don't get me wrong. He had a lot of touchdowns last year. There was weeks where he killed it, but I don't think he's solidified that number 2 spot quite yet. It's still going to be him and Sanu. It's just he's just going to be too inconsistent for me because he's going to have weeks where he kills it. He's going to have weeks where he just doesn't because of the targets just aren't going to him because there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense because it's a really good offense.
Tons.
And a lot of those
Tons of
targets are going
mouths
to
to feed.
Julio. So you're just going to have good weeks and bad weeks. I just don't think he's a guy that you can start as your number 2 receiver and feel good about it. He's a better best ball player to me than anything. So if he falls a little later on down the list, maybe you can take Calvin Ridley. He
Well,
definitely
and
has
they have
upside.
a new head
but-
coach, or a new offensive coordinator, right? Dirk
Yeah.
Cutter's new OC. Yeah. So Dirk Cutter is their new OC, and generally when somebody's new in a role, they want to feed the person who's the absolute beast the most, and so I think that's going to take targets away from Calvin Ridley as opposed to adding them because they're going to be trying to give the ball to Julio on every single throw so that he can look good. Because if Julio's getting the ball every single time, then the offensive coordinator looks good because they're putting up more yards, more points, whatever.
Yeah,
I've just noticed that a lot with new coaches. They always he's not a new coach, but he's new to that team.
well, he was there before and Shanahan. He's coming back, so I
Yeah,
think he's kind
I
of
know.
familiar with them. But I mean, Julio said he's going for 3,000 yards this year. So I mean, hey, if Julio's
I
going for
believe
3,000,
him.
then
Yep.
3,040
for-
touchdowns.
yeah, not too much room for Calvin Ridley after that. But
Yeah.
I have Anthony Miller right after, just because Miller has crazy upside this year. I think he's got good upside just because he's a really good player. He's just handicapped by another quarterback that might be bad. We don't really know how good he is. I don't believe he's good quite yet. But he's definitely going to be handicapped because of the quarterback. Also, he's the number 2 target. But he had 7 touchdowns last year as a rookie.
I don't even know if he's number 2. I think they're just balanced.
Yeah, in terms of skill, at this point, I think they're pretty much even.
I'm not sure what the splits are on targets, but I think he's gonna have just as many targets as Allen Robinson
Yeah, so I think,
for an 11th round pick.
and
pretty
that's
solid.
exactly another point is if he's not too much worse than Allen Robinson, or if you kind of 50-50, 60-40, I would take a shot on the guy that's going super late. He's basically free, so why not take a shot on Anthony Miller at this point? It's a free Miller.
He's 100% free. Who
So-
else are you going to grab there? You might be able to grab Peyton. Well, now Peyton Barber's probably already gone.
Well, the thing is if he doesn't perform, then you could just drop him. No worries. But if he does perform, you could end up with a really good receiver. So he's somebody I like taking a shot on later on. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling, same thing. He's a guy that
He's going a little bit sooner.
he's going a little sooner, but I think he has a better chance of being good because obviously Aaron Rodgers is a beast. But
If he's the number 2 for Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna be a beast.
yeah, it's just that I think the guy's 6'4" or something like that, and he ran a really good 40 time. He's athletically gifted. He's just totally raw, and I think coming into this year, he's gonna be better. He's gonna know how to play the game a little better at this level. I think he's probably learned a lot over the summer because of Aaron Rodgers, and some of the statistics I looked up on him. He was targeted 73 times, and he only caught 38 of those. So I think him and Aaron Rodgers working over the summer, that kind of develops a better rapport between them. That can definitely help. And if instead of getting 38 catches, he got 50, it would be a totally different conversation because he would have had probably 800 yards and maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns. And Aaron Rodgers also had one of his lowest touchdown numbers last year, I believe. So if Aaron Rodgers improves off that, look for this guy to have another 5 touchdowns added to the 2 that he had last year.
So my only issue with with drafting MVS. Like, I think the MVS is a really good pick. I've got him in a ton of leagues. I really do like him, but we're pretty high on Deontay Foreman, and it might take away your ability to be able to draft Deontay Foreman at a reasonable spot.
I don't think though. I think Foreman still goes after him.
He does. But if
you can still grab both, I've
chance,
done it before.
Yeah, no, and I have too. But there's in a lot of leagues, they're going to be very close together, unless there's a ton of teams that don't have quarterbacks that grab like Russ and Cam Newton and whatever.
Yeah.
Or like if people like other guys better, like Damian Harris or LaShawn McCoy or whatever. But I'm grabbing Deontay Foreman in that area a lot, so it's like, I don't know, it's kind of tough. I'm gonna grab Marquez Valdes-Scantling as much as I possibly can because I'm doing that late round wide receiver stuff. So anywhere from round 5 to 12, I'm gonna be looking for wide receivers wherever there's value.
Yeah,
and that's one of the guys.
And I think with the skill that he has the most potential out of the two receivers in that, like, after Adams.
And everybody said it.
Yeah, Geronimo. I guess if you believe in Geronimo more than him, then you go ahead and take Geronimo. But I think that skill-wise, Marquez is better. Slot-wise, like, Geronimo's going to be in the slot, so that could definitely be good for fantasy numbers for sure. And it could be a situation where MVS goes off for a week, and then maybe Geronimo the next week, and they kind of just take turns, or every couple of weeks.
It probably will.
It could, and that might be what happens, is that they might be inconsistent. So
it's worth a look, though.
It's worth a look, and these guys are really good, I think, for best ball like leagues, especially.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, so Marquez is definitely better in best ball than he probably would be in a regular league. Yeah, it really worries me because, like, you look at guys like Randall Cobb, Geronimo Allison, all the other dudes that used to be, what's his name, Aaron Rodgers wide receivers. There's always like one a week that does well, and Davante Adams was the only constant. Same with Jordy Nelson. So those are like the two guys that have, historically that have ever been a constant in Aaron Rodgers throwing. So like MVS, he could just be another piece of the pie and another piece of the puzzle that is just like some weeks he's put in, some weeks he's not, kind of like a New England running back.
Yeah.
And so it's tough with that, but like I think that he's a really good pick for best ball, and then I think in Dynasty he's a great stash. Redraft, it's nerve-wracking. I think I'd rather go with safer picks there.
Yeah, I would take MVS. I would definitely take MVS over Anthony Miller though. And I think that's kind of how the draft plays out, anyways. But these are both. I'm just mentioning some guys that might have some like potential breakout.
You'd rather have him than Anthony Miller, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Anthony Miller's been drafted a few rounds later, though. I just like Anthony Miller where he's falling.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm just pointing out a couple guys that I like where they're falling too. I don't hate Miller at all. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying like where they are.
Saying, yeah. Okay. So then your honorable mentions starts with Mike Williams.
So my issue with, like, honestly, I have an issue with Mike Williams right there. I love Mike Williams because he's just such a big, like, talented wide receiver. But like I was talking about earlier, that 5th round, I love O.J. Howard, I love Deshaun Watson, and those are my two guys in that round. If they're taken, then I'm going to go all day at wide receiver. I'm going to grab, a Calvin Ridley. I'm going to grab a Tyler Lockett. I'm going to grab a Mike Williams. I'm going to go through there. I'm going to grab Robbie Anderson, Marvin Jones, Godwin, Kupp, Boyd, whoever. I just really don't like them, while there's some elite tight ends on the board like Evan Ingram, O.J. Howard. And then if I can get one of those elite quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. I'm one that doesn't advocate for an early quarterback league, but I'm the person that makes that mistake more than anybody. So I'm gonna grab Deshaun Watson in the 5th round and not bat an eye because he's my favorite quarterback in the league. I won't grab any of the other guys there though. I'd rather wait and grab Russell Wilson or something. Yeah. So Mike Williams, I have him there on the honorable mentions, and that's more of me saying these aren't guys that I draft, even though I think that it's not bad value. I don't think it's horrible in any way, but I'd rather wait until later and grab guys like Robert Foster in the 15th round, D. Jackson in the 10th round, Kiki Cootie in the 9th round,
something like that.
Anthony Miller in the 11th, MVS in the 8th. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Mike Williams, I love the talent.
They're all risky.
Yeah, I love the talent of Mike Williams.
Tons of talent.
He's got tons of talent. He's going to be a stud receiver for years to come. I just don't know if it's coming yet. I think that this year, between him and Keenan, it could definitely be really good for him. He could have, 10 touchdowns and maybe 1,000 yards. You never know. His one thing that I will point out too is his touchdown ratio last year was pretty ridiculous off of how many catches he had. Like, he was getting touchdowns at a crazy rate based off of the catches he had because he didn't have that many catches for the touchdowns that he had. But he definitely should be targeted more without Tyrell Williams there. and
I think
being a
this is the
second-year
last
player.
year you get him. This is the last year you get him in a value, though.
I think you're right.
I think if he succeeds this year, then it's game over. He's gonna be a 3rd-round pick next year.
Oh, totally. And I think it's risky-ish. It's not super risky at this point because you're going. He's got some crazy good upside, but I think he also has.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason I just
Doesn't
think
he
he's
have
still
like
going.
Calvin Johnson's size? Like, isn't this dude huge?
No, he's huge. He's like I said, he's a stud. It's just I don't know. At this point in the draft, I think he's going slightly too high. Like if he was going like maybe 5 spots lower on the receiver list, then maybe. But just value-wise, I don't like where he's going right now. It's not terrible, and if you want to grab him, go for it, because I think he has the upside. But
I'll grab him early 6th all day long.
He just feels kind of risky for me. I don't know why.
If he falls past Evan Ingram, I'm just gonna take him. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
If I can get him in the early 6th round, I'm gonna grab that all day because there's no running backs there that I like. I think Lamar Miller, Tevin Coleman, Rashad Penny, Darius Geis, like they're not guys that like I want to build a team around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mike Williams, I think he could be an elite character in my freaking flex position or wide receiver position depending on where I have him.
I think he could fit as a wide receiver too, no doubt.
So me and you both like DeSean Jackson. He's another guy there on your list.
So he's on my list. I have him there. Primarily, I have him there for best ball though. I think that he's like gonna absolutely kill it in best ball leagues because he's DeSean Jackson. He burns people all day long. He's the biggest deep target in the league, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't think you can go wrong with DeSean Jackson or Mohamed Sanu in a best ball league. So
yeah. Obviously, being an Eagles fan, I love DeSean Jackson. I was hyped when we got him back. And all the reports that are going on right now is basically that they have a crazy connection already, and they're really working on it, and that Wentz is, target him, and he's just doing really good in camp. So there's good rapport going on right now. I like him better than I even like Tate and Sterling Shepard, to be honest. And if you guys watch the Fantasy Footballers, I would recommend doing so because they're fantastic. There's a guy on there, Andy. He's kind of feels the same way. He's really high on DeSean Jackson. And he loves the value where he's going right now, and it's basically another free pick. You get him so late.
Dude, he is so late.
So
like
late.
there's nobody in that area that's
he's
worth
a guy.
drafting.
He's a guy where one play, boom, fantasy week is just that's all you need out of him.
It's like Tyler Lockett. Maybe, yeah.
But like he's the second guy on the team. There's a lot of targets to feed there, so I don't think he's going to do good consistently, which is his problem, and that's why he's going so late. But I think he's going to have a lot of good weeks and like solid weeks. And if you have a bye week and you need to plug somebody in, then if you take a chance on DeSean Jackson, like he could definitely return that for you. It would, like he's a solid option as a backup.
I don't think I've drafted him in any redraft leagues though. I don't want to have to plug him in because it freaks me out a little bit.
I agree with you. It's
plugging him into my team. I think I'd rather go with like Anthony Miller in that area than go with DeSean Jackson.
Yeah,
because they're being drafted in the same area, and like Djax, I will take all day over Anthony Miller in a best ball league, but I'll take Anthony Miller all day over DeSean Jackson in a redraft.
Yeah, and I get that. And I've done that too.
That's how I do things. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I like Djax where he's going though, for sure though. He's definitely a steal that late if you want to take a shot on him. And then you have Robert Foster right after, or like on the mentions list.
I have Robert Foster on the list. I love him in best ball leagues, and I like him in dynasties. I don't like him in redraft as much because, I don't know. I think he's a free agent play in redraft. I would look for his name on waiver wire. Just keep an eye on that waiver wire week 1. If you see that name blow up with a couple points next to it, like even a few, even like 6 to 15 points, I want you to go scoop that dude up because I think he's gonna have a good year. Well, 15 for sure, but there's gonna be a bunch of wide receivers on that list.
If you see that he's targeted a lot, yeah, like you want to see that he's playing a lot and like he's the number one guy and that he has value.
Think about the free agency list, though. Think about the free agency list. There's always a shit ton of guys that have like tons of points. Like Will Dissly had a ton of points. This guy had a ton of points.
Yeah, generally you want to look for guys that are targeted. Yeah. That's why that's why I lost out on Phillip Lindsay last year because I didn't like the volume he was getting. So I was like, he's like a 1 or 2 game guy, but he ended up doing good the whole season. So that's the risk you have by like only going by targets. So you want to go by both, but it's just hard to do so when you have such a small bench. You don't want to draft one of your good players for somebody that might just be a one-hit wonder. So you want to see like good stats, but along with targets generally.
If you see one catch for 98 yards and a touchdown, odds are it's just a bust.
Yeah, it's
but if you see Robert Foster on there and it says 7 receptions, like I think it will say, just trust me on this, then I mean, I think that's the time to buy.
Yeah,
and if you get him week 1, I think you're going to be before anybody else. So don't put a bunch of money on him.
Yeah, keep an eye on him for sure.
And then in best ball, I'd grab him all day long at the end of the draft. 15th round, 16th round, like easy.
Yeah,
It's
well,
an
maybe
easy
if
pick.
you're in a super deep league, like I'm talking like 16, man, or I don't know how deep it would have to be,
yeah.
but
Best
maybe
ball's
then you
18,
could.
guys. I would grab him.
Yeah, well, I just meant like a redraft. You could draft him in a redraft if you're like in a crazy big
If
league.
it's deep, yeah.
If it's that deep,
Yeah.
he's definitely a good guy to look at.
But the issue with that is that in those, like even 18 deep or whatever, there's kickers and defenses and stuff too. So you're not actually getting as deep as you would in a best ball 18 man. So
Yeah, for sure, definitely better.
yeah. So if it's super deep, then for sure just do it. Like if it's 22 players, you're like, oh, I want to get Robert Foster at the end. Go for it. Like I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a lot of guys down here at the bottom, like in the 15th round, like Michael Gallup, that you'd rather have on your team. Well, maybe I don't know. I don't know who you are, but I would rather Robert Foster. But it's a toss-up.
Well, and that's gonna round out our receiver rankings. We're gonna do a fantasy draft, and then we're also gonna continue on with the list. So check out.
We're gonna do some quarterbacks. We're gonna do tight ends.
Yeah,
we're gonna,
be on the
we're
list.
gonna take care of all that stuff. So
Be on the lookout for
stay
those.
tuned. Stay tuned for more information. We are living the fantasy. Have a great rest of your night.